everyone, Mrs. Jones here. In this video, we are going to talk about 4.6, which is more absolute value and squared equations, but specifically trickier ones. But I promise you're going to be able to do it. It's just combining a lot of things that you already know how to do into just one equation. All right, so I want you to pause the video and I want you to first try this equation by yourself. Okay, great. So hopefully you're back. And here we go. You are first. I'll fill in this first step. You would add 9 to both sides here. That's going to get you to 2x plus 8 quantity squared equals 32. You're then going to divide by 2 on both sides, which is going to get you to x plus 8 squared equals 16. You would take the square root of both sides, which is going to get you to x plus 8 equals 4. Remember, you would then split into your two equations, and then you should get two solutions, x equals -4 and x equals -12. Let's try another one. All right, I want you to try this one by yourself. Okay, you're back. Hopefully you started by, I'll fill in this first step again, dividing by 5 on both sides. When I do that, I get x minus 3 under the square root equals 7. And then remember, to undo a square root, we're going to square both sides, which is going to leave me with x minus 3 equals 49. Add 3 to both sides. And in this situation, we only have one solution. Remember, these square root equations is when we see one solution. All right, so before we get into super tricky problems, let's go back to the basics. This is like riding a bike back to 7th grade. You know how to do this. We know that we're combining our like terms of 3x and 5x to get 8x equals 16. You know you would divide by 8 on both sides, and you're going to get a solution of x equals 2. Hopefully this feels wonderful. Well, what if we make it a little trickier? Okay, keep in mind what we just did. Back to the basics, okay? Keeping that in mind, I want you to notice that our absolute value, our pipes here, are the same. So, thinking about back to the basics, we can combine these. I have 3 groups of the absolute value of x plus 1 plus 5 groups of the absolute value of x plus 1. That gets me to 8 groups of the absolute value of x plus 1. It's just essentially a fancy schmancy combining like terms. Your term, though, is just an absolute value. Now, you know how to do this. Divide by 8, and now I'm at x plus 1 equals 2, the absolute value. Remember, we then get our two equations, so I would have x plus 1 equals 2. Oops, 2. Or my other equation would be x plus 1 equals -2. I would subtract 1. So one of my solutions is x equals 1. Or my other solution would be x equals -3. All right, so I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. Again, think about it as a fancy schmancy combining like terms. All right, you're back. So we have 8 groups and 6 groups. We're taking away, which gets me to 2 groups of the absolute value of x plus 4. Keeping in mind these are the same. So I'm looking at my coefficients, right? Thinking about my coefficients, 8 minus 6 is going to get me to this 2. All right, moving on. We now are trying to isolate the pipes. We're trying to get them by themselves. So I would divide by 2 on both sides, which will get me to 2x plus 4 equals 10. Then we make our two equations, which then should lead you to your two solutions of x equals 3 and x equals -7. All right, another tricky one, but you can do this. Think about the same idea of combining fancy like terms. Instead of our absolute value, we have squared quantities. Now, remember that right here, there's an invisible 1. So how many groups of x minus 5 squared do we have? We have 5 groups of x minus 5 squared. Now, in order to undo that, I would divide by 5, right? I'm trying to isolate that squared part by itself. So now I'm at x minus 5 quantity squared equals 4. I square root, whoops. Now I'm at the absolute value of x minus 5 equals 2. Then I make my two equations. I have x minus 5 equals +2, and I have x minus 5 equals negative 2. Add 5, so one of my solutions is going to be x equals 7. Add 5, and my other solution is going to be x equals positive 3. All right, hopefully this feels okay. I want you to try this next one by yourself. Pause the video. And you're back. It's tricky, but you can do it. So when we combine our fancy schmancy like terms, we get negative 7 quantity 4x minus 1 squared. So I'm going to divide by negative 7 on both sides, which is going to get me to 4x minus 1 quantity squared equals 9. When I square root, I'll get 4x minus 1 absolute value, of course, equals 3, which then leads me to my two equations, 4x minus 1 equals 3, and 4x minus 1 equals negative 3. That then gives me my two solutions of x equals 1 or x equals negative 1/2. All right, you guys are doing so great. So again, let's go back to our basics for a second. Again, riding a bike back to 7th grade. So in this situation, we have our like terms, but they're on opposite sides. They're on different sides of my equal sign. I need to bring them together. Remember, we get all of our variable terms to one side of the equation. So in order for me to get rid of this 8x on the right-hand side, I'm going to subtract it. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Remember, that's our golden rule of algebra. So this leaves me with 4x equals 24. I would divide by 4, and I would divide by 4. So I have x equals 6. Okay, keep this in mind. Look what we have to do here. It's tricky, but you can do it. Think about our like terms here. We have x plus 7, and we have x plus 7, but our pipes are on opposite sides, different sides of the equation. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take away the 8 groups from the right-hand side, and I'm going to take away the 8 groups from the left-hand side. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I'm left with 4 groups of absolute value of x plus 7 equals 24. I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. So I get the absolute value of x plus 7 equals 6. I have my two equations. I have x plus 7 equals negative 6, and I have x plus 7 equals 6. Oh, I switched. I usually do the other side. All right, so I subtract 7. So I'm going to get x equals negative 13 as one of my solutions, or my other solution is going to be x equals negative 1. All right, I want you to try this next one on your own. Pause the video. Okay, again, fancy, 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 but you can do it. Look at our like terms. They're on different sides of the equal sign, which means I have some rearranging to do. You are going to take away the 2 times x plus 6 squared, on both sides. So it's going to be eliminated on the right-hand side, which is going to leave you to negative 5 times x plus 6 squared equals negative 500. You're going to divide by negative 5 on both sides to get x plus 6 equals 100. Sorry, x plus 6 squared equals 100. You're going to square root, which is then going to lead you to your absolute value of x plus 6 equals 10. Then you're going to get your two equations, my blue equations here on the left and right. And then my two solutions are going to be x equals 4 and x equals negative 16. All right, we're almost done. Oh, we are done. Yay. Nice job, guys. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. But remember, like riding a bike, and this is just a little bit trickier. You got it.